So for the past few days, specifically, I've been in what I would describe as a deep state of introspection. And it's been really challenging, actually, because I've got a lot of work to do. And what I found is that the best times to experience like a deep state of introspection, for me at least, are during retreats or times when the outside world is not coming at us so quickly and we can sit down and tear apart our thoughts and examine them and really get down into why I'm thinking the way that I'm thinking, why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. And what's been interesting about this is that these persistent thoughts have been coming in the midst of one of the busiest times of my professional life to date. And so I wanted to take a moment here in between PT and my first, counseling session of the day to unpack some of these thoughts, to explore some of the thoughts, try to see if I can make one coherent thought. So here it goes. As a chaplain or anyone in a position of trust, so anyone who does any type of counseling or helping, we call them the helping professions. So this would include, a large umbrella, because even those who aren't necessarily certified in these positions or whatnot, many people in positions of leadership, of trust, end up finding themselves in this space. And often when you're in a position of trust, the people that you care for, the person who's coming to you with their burden, with their in the midst of their suffering, they often come to me with this implicit and sometimes very explicit expectation that I'm going to fix the problem that they're experiencing, that I will share my opinion, that I will help dig them out of the hole that they're in, that I'll have some wisdom that will just flow naturally and they'll be able to apply that and move on with their lives whole and healed. And it's an extremely dangerous position to be in, because far too often we can slip into the belief that we can actually fix the situation that someone's in. And so we take our own experience in an effort to be empathetic, to feel with the other person, to relate to the other person. We'll take our experience that might be similar and probably isn't, similar in some circumstances, but being experienced by us and the wealth of our experience and our past and our life and our hormonal changes and differences and our physical differences and our spiritual, mental, emotional, all of that, right? So we take all of that and then we can try to apply, well, this was what I did to fix the situation. You should try this. And I'm not saying that sharing our own experiences is bad, because I think that actually it's very powerful when someone's experiencing an existential crisis, which is most really of what we're experiencing. It's what's happening right now. Whether or not we're being plagued by something in the past, that's occurring right now in the present moment. So this is something about existence, right? That's really bothering us. And so this person comes to me and says, "Chap, this is what I'm going through. What do I do?" And the temptation, again, it's so insidious, because that is a very powerful place to be in. Someone has a problem. In my desire to help, in my desire to heal, in my desire to support this person, I want to fix them. I want to fix the problem. I want to rescue them, right? And I actually think that this is at the root of some of the toxicity within the helping professions right now. When I look at things like there's the push to label the problem, right? And this is partially mandated by insurance, partially mandated by what we're making this a science, right? The complexity of human existence, we're going to turn this into like a scientific method. This is how we fix it, right? And so we start slapping labels, and whether or not we're willing to admit it, the reason we slap the labels is out of this need to fix, right? So we're going to slap PTSD, depression, anxiety, and on the list goes, right? I mean, the list is thousands and hundreds of thousands maybe of labels long, and you can tack label on top of label and it becomes a completely different label. And so we do that, right? We label the person so that we can then apply the fix. We say, well, you have this, so now this is the answer, right? And the thought that continues to persist is how terrible that can be. How terrible that can be. It's well-meaning. It's well-intended. But to reduce the complexity of a human being's existence and the struggle that they are going through down to a label, and then apply a fix like a Band-Aid, right? It's like taking something as complex as cancer and saying, well, we'll just cut it out and that'll fix the problem. When the reality is so much more complicated than that. And the approach to curing a cancerous tumor it's so massive. Think of all of the healthcare professionals that are involved in treating cancer. Even in treating a broken bone, right? If you've ever had a broken bone, think of all of the professionals that are involved when you have a broken bone. It's not just one. It's not just the person who sets the bone. There's the anesthetist, there's the nurses, there's the intake, there are so many people involved in helping you to heal a broken bone. And all of those people, right? Let's say that on average there's 10 people, and I'd say that that's probably low when we look at all of the effects, right? All the supply chains that come together to provide the cast and the materials, and like on and on and on. There is a massive network of people that come together to heal a broken bone. The doctor who sets the bone might get most of the attention, might have most of the immediate influence and impact. But when we look at like a torn ligament, let's say a meniscus, right? You have the primary care physician, you have the nurses, you have the intake people, you have the anesthetist, you have all of this team of individuals, all to heal one messed up part of the body. And that is like something that we can look at with a scan. We can take a scan of it and we can say, this is the problem. We can identify, like positively identify, here's the issue, here's the problem. This is how we fix it, right? And then it's still wildly complicated. And then in the aftermath, think of like the healing from a torn meniscus, right? Think of the physical therapist, often multiple physical therapists that are involved, the months that we take of specifically identifying the problem and working to heal from it, right? And all of the different exercises and moves and motions, and that's all to heal one torn ligament. So to think that that this is going to be easy. That someone can come into my office and say, I have this wildly complicated situation that I'm dealing with. How do I fix it? Right? When the woundings of the soul, and if you don't like the word soul, the woundings of the mind, the woundings of life, okay, these spiritual wounds, these moral injuries that we experience, they are so much more complicated. They're so much more complicated than much of the physical trauma we will experience. Part of that is because I can't, it's impossible for me to take a scan. There's no CT scan for the heart. There's no CT scan for the memory. And it gets even more complicated because we know objectively that memories are not objective. They are subjective. And they're not even meant to be objective. What is the purpose and function of memory? And that's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother thought path. And I don't want to go too far down that. But the reality is that these are wildly complicated issues. Extremely painful. Now, what do I know? It's okay, I'm gonna say what I know now, right? The reality is that I know nothing, but what do I think? What do I think? I think that going back to a meniscus tear, and that's on my mind lately. I haven't had a torn meniscus, but someone else I know has. And going back to the meniscus tear, right? All of those doctors and practitioners and helpers and healers, right? They don't actually heal the meniscus. They restore conditions within which the body can heal the meniscus. That's what they do. So they realign the body in such a way that the body can heal itself. And I think that this is takeaway number one for me, is that as someone in the profession of trying to heal the heart, the soul, the mind, I think that having this perspective is really key. That it's not my job to heal. I am not a healer. I strive, first and foremost, to help the individual establish an environment in which their mind, their soul, their spirit, their heart can experience healing. So what does that mean? That means that, let's say that if someone is truly in an abusive relationship or something, I can't take them out of that relationship. I can't do that. They must make the decision whether or not they want to be out of the relationship. I can't tell them, you need to get out of this relationship. In the moment that I tell them that, it's not them healing. It's me imposing my beliefs, my values, my system onto them. But if I can help to empower them to either remove themselves from the situation or to grow through the situation, depending on the type of abuse and so forth, then maybe I've helped in some way to align their lives so that they can heal themselves, right? So it's well, how do you do that without giving your opinion? And the reality is that I have to remove this narcissistic belief, this narcissistic approach that I am the one who's fixing their situation. And that can be really hard because we get into into these professions. We do what we do in large measure because we want to help. It's I want to help. I want to be, a help, a boon, and assistance to this person in this place. And so then we got caught up in, well, I'm not successful. I'm not successful if people aren't walking away from sessions with me, having fixed their lives, having fixed their situation. And I think that one thing, that the next takeaway, the thing that's really helped me in this is changing my conception of what success is, right? So I think back to like early explorers and how they felt. They often describe this kind of feeling of awe, of being able to witness something that no one else, no other human eye, no other human being has witnessed. And how powerful that was for them to just go to a place where no one else has been, and to be pioneers, right, into these spaces. And there's still a considerable number of people who are driven by that. Like their life is just filled with so much meaning and purpose, and going to places where very few other people have been. And photographers, they bring these spaces to us, and we stand in awe and honor of them. We go, wow, you sacrificed so much to put yourself in a place so that I could witness this really special thing. And I tend to feel this sense of awe, when I look at landscapes that I will never set eyes on. I see into the darkest recesses of space that we've been able to witness. I get to look through the eyes of other heroic figures as they go into these spaces. And I think that, well, I know for me, right, and this is something that I feel like I can say I know that's helped me to avoid my tendency to go, oh, I can fix this, is looking at these individual experiences that I have with people as a sacred exploration into a space that potentially nobody else or very few other people will ever bear witness to. Someone comes into my office and they sit down and they share with me things that they've shared with one, two, maybe no other people in their entire lives. And the person in front of me is a world. They are a universe. And it is so sacred that they are taking a hidden part of their universe, opening it to me and saying, look at this. And often it's not a pretty thing, It's not, it's dark and it's terrible and it's horrible, or it's beautiful and it's complicated and it's challenging, and it takes work and effort just to get to that space. And here this person is, they're laying bare this secret, sacred part of themselves. And just to witness that, just to see it, is that not enough? And sometimes it's a terrible wound that they've hidden up, and I get to simply by being witness to that pain, to that wound, some of that pain is alleviated. One of my favorite quotes by Dave Grossman is, "Joy shared is joy multiplied. Suffering shared is suffering divided." And some of these people who come and talk to me have been carrying that suffering all on their own for so long. And now they get to unload a piece of it. And a tiny bit of that suffering is reduced. What a sacred, holy experience that is. And I think that we have to be okay with that being enough. I don't know if this will be helpful to anyone, but it's helpful to me, I think, and I'm gonna share it, I guess. And hopefully it's helpful helpful to you. Thanks. Love you.